So tomorrow, the House Judiciary Committee will consider the first assault weapons ban put before Congress in decades. And this bill would ban the sale, the transfer, the import, and manufacture several models of semi-automatic weapons. And it has a real chance of actually making its way to the House floor. Joining us now is the congressman who co-sponsored that bill, Congressman David Cicilline, a Democrat from Rhode Island, who actually sits on the Judiciary Committee. He also chairs the Congressional LGBTQ plus Equality Caucus. Congressman Cicilline, thank you so much for joining us tonight. You're taking a step towards getting an assault weapons ban passed in the House tomorrow for the first time in decades, and that should be commended. And Democrats in the House have been very busy passing other legislation to protect the rights to things like marriage and abortion. My question to you tonight, sir, is what do you say to people who might claim that the legislative work that the Democrats are doing in the House is symbolically important, but is not enough considering the inability to actually pass the legislation in the Senate?
Well, thank you for having me on tonight. Look, the House is going to continue to do its work, and we have been very focused on a whole range of issues, driving down the costs for working families, addressing climate issues, addressing the scourge of gun violence, making sure people have rights to marry and to contraception. So we have a lot of legislation which is pending in the Senate. And we're always challenged by the rules of the Senate that require 10 Republicans to join us in this work. But the House Democrats will continue to do what we do, and that is deliver for the American people, bring the priorities of the American people before the Congress vote and pass excellent bills and get them to the Senate. We're responsible for our work. They're responsible for theirs. And if the standard where we're only going to pass things we know the Senate will pass, many of us would feel like we could go home because we have so many great pieces of legislation that are languishing in the Senate. But we're going to continue to respond to the urgent priorities of the American people, get our work done, pass good appropriations bills, good infrastructure bills, good gun safety bills, and we'll expect the Senate to do their work as well.
Yeah, no, and that's fair enough. I think that's a very valid point, the division of labor between the House and the Senate. But even if the Senate does not have the votes to pass the bills that the House is passing, is it important? Do you think it is important to proceed and put the votes on the record?
Oh, absolutely. Look, these votes matter because we are fighting to protect our constituents from gun violence. We are fighting to protect our constituents' ability to marry the people they love, to have access to full reproductive health care, including abortion services, to have access to contraceptives. So these are really important issues. And we're going to continue to focus on the important priorities of the American people, to help rebuild the economy, to recover from the devastation of the pandemic, to defeat ultimately the pandemic so people can resume their normal lives. We're doing a lot of things simultaneously. All of them are important. And I think in some of these situations, it's important for the American people to see who's fighting to protect their freedoms, who's fighting to take away those freedoms, who's fighting to preserve reproductive health care, who's against it, so that in November, people will have a clear choice and they'll know where people stand. We hope the Senate will take up all these bills and pass them. It will make a real difference in the lives of the American people. We don't have control over that. So we're going to keep doing the important work on the House, sending it to the Senate, and give the American people an understanding of that we're fighting for them.
Let me ask you, if I can, for a moment about the actual assault weapons ban. There has been, some question about whether Democrats actually have enough votes in the full House to pass the assault weapons ban. What is your understanding this evening? Do Democrats, in fact, have the votes in the full House?
Well, look, we're going to mark up the bill tomorrow. The first time in almost 30 years, we've taken up the assault weapons ban. These are weapons of war designed to kill as many people as quickly as possible, to be used in military combat. They don't belong in the neighborhoods of our cities. The last 4 mass shootings included the legal purchase of an assault rifle. So we know when we had the assault weapons ban in effect, there was a 25% decline in gun massacres and a 40% decline in fatalities. So we know the assault weapon ban works. And so I am confident that after it passes out of the Judiciary Committee, when it comes to the House floor, we will have the votes to pass it. And then we'll send it to the Senate. And it's going to make a real difference in the lives of the American people. We have a gun violence epidemic. This is the gun of choice for mass shooters. They're particularly lethal because they're military-style weapons, and we have got to do something to stop the use of these weapons that are massacring kids in schools and people in grocery stores and people at theaters and places where people congregate.
Rhode Island Democratic Congressman David Cicilline, sir, thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it.
My pleasure.